This is Duke and Ashley. Duke and Ashley feeling like a little worm, a little bug in a giant jar of shit, doing the car show. Doing the car show, it's probably Thursday, most likely. It's probably in December. Hey, what's up, Nick? Good morning. Man, I was talking to some other dudes in another county about I didn't talk to them about it. They just brought it up. They're talking about COVID and shit. And these are like, most of these guys are like wastewater guys and shit. And like, obviously the people that work in wastewater, especially in rural wastewater, have a dramatically high exposure to pathogens and viral material in wastewater and stuff. They actually, I mean, for how much shit they sift through, they're pretty have a pretty good track record of not getting sick and not getting any kind of infections or anything, which is kind of amazing. But it's such a weird thing because it's almost like, I don't know how to describe, I mean, they're not, depending on where somebody does wastewater and what kind of work they do with wastewater, it can range anywhere from like medial labor, where it's like you're just like a fucking bucket huffer, huffing poo water, practically, to all the way up to like, you're a chemist analyzing wastewater samples and everything in between, or an engineer. Those are probably like the top tier. Like if you're designing systems, you're going to be getting a lot of money out of that. Installing difficult, if you're a line installer, that's a really high paying job. Like if you're going to undeveloped areas and like testing rock and putting in fucking city giant fucking pathways for wastewater, that's all like really high dollar stuff. But it can go anywhere in between, and all of them get exposure to feces, you know what I mean, like in water and stuff. I mean, of course they take of course there's protocols. It's not like they're just like getting in there and fucking like getting a cup of mouthwash or something. It's that there is no way. There's so much of it. Like you have so much exposure. It's impossible. Like you could be in a hole and have a protective suit on, and a fucking face shield and a fucking mask on and goggles. And then you like lean down and there's a pipe in there that nobody knew about, that's not on any maps, and it got cut under poo water by like a fucking bucket hoe, and then it like just like rips through your suit, and you just have like sewage water just like pouring into your fucking suit, and that's if you have safety protocols. A lot of guys, there are some I've seen guys that are, and it's very common, like especially repair guys will just straight up get in there with like blue jeans on. They'll have fucking shit on their hands. They'll be throwing in cigarettes usually, tossing cigarettes in their mouth, having like poo on their hands. I mean, it's fucking crazy. I don't really get that, but I see it all the time, like I don't understand it, but they do it all the time. And, it's a weird thing because society is, when they're tricked by this COVID thing, they're just so over the top with their display of compliance and concern. I saw an article last night in the fucking home screen of whatever a phone is. Like you open the phone and it just has fucking news blurbs in there, and it was like, see this recording of Tom Cruise, just eviscerating his crew for COVID violations. It's like, I kind of wanted to click on it, but I don't click on that stuff, so I just let it go. Whatever it is, I wanted to click on it just to get a laugh, because I can't even imagine what it would be like to hear Tom Cruise, like, I imagine he'd basically fall into his role as Les Grossman, but that would be kind of his default, like, I'm angry and I need to like get these people listening, you just like fall into like a character or something. So it'd be like Les Grossman yelling at his people about COVID and shit, but in the reality it'd be like a very insecure Hollywood slave that is completely fucking gone and is trying to like connect through communication with people that are still breathing and stuff. I don't know, it's just a funny idea to me, imagine that. But the society has been so over the top in their little peacock display of like, look at how good of slaves we are. I'm so concerned. They're so over the top, and then they're completely over the top in the reaction, way overstated, and then they don't even give a fuck about, like, they have all this stuff about like we care, blah blah blah. They have no idea how the different tiers of their society are affected by their lifestyle and consumption, and how there's people that are like cleaning up all of their dumbass decisions that they voted on or passed for their city and spent money on to build some dumbass system that's only designed to be consolidated so that you can be charged money. That's it. It's just a profit model. It's just like, how do we engineer this to make it like as dumb as fucking possible in terms of its distribution, and to make the fucking money flow up the chain of delivery. And that's it. And that right there, what I just described, is the entire core design principle behind your water and sewage. It's not, and that's just true. That's just the truth. Safety and utility are an after. They're an after consideration after. We just plumb a fucking pipe straight up the middle, hi-ho diddle diddle, and then make sure that their revenue gets back to the fucking central hub. Charge the city, charge the customer, charge the city, charge the hub or whatever, make them have compliance. They got to go do testing and shit all the time, make sure they're compliant and shit. It would be, contrast that with like if you had isolated systems that were that use user input, even though it's impossible to imagine that right now because people are too lazy to do that. But that's just circumstantial. But if you had like cellular wastewater, your rate of like water going down would be low. Your rate of incidents would be going low. When somebody fucking flushes grease down their toilet and shit, it's just gonna fuck up their shit, not gonna fuck up somebody else. Like, there's so many benefits. Same thing with water delivery. If you had cellular containment of water instead of like a central hub, you could never have water shut down. You could never have mass contamination where you have gigantic fucking oil odors that where people are just fucking like wasting, not being able to use water because it's contaminated, and having to use heat energy to fucking decon it. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. But anyway, I was talking to some of these guys in another county. Like, we were working together on a job, and they were talking about how they brought up, they're like, I was trying to be respectful of them and shit, like wearing gloves and stuff to pass samples and stuff. And they're like, I'll just fucking grab it. I'm not worried about this COVID-19 bullshit. Which is it's like a marked contrast, because when this stuff first happened, I'm sure they didn't like it, but they weren't going to say something like that bold about it, you know what I mean? Because they kind of had that consensus trickery where they're like, does everybody else think that COVID's a big deal? Like, I guess I need to not pretend like I don't think it's a big deal. And so nobody would say anything. Now it's like people are just laughing about COVID, you know what I mean? Out here in rural country, at least. So that's like a marked change. It's tough to say what that means exactly, or to be able to draw any kind of extension out of it. I would guess, if I was a supervillain piece of shit, then what I would do would be, I would look at it and be like, these boys aren't compliant. I think we need to drop bubonic plague. That's what I would fucking do. And I would, because then you compound everything, right? Like if you dropped another virus, as soon as, let me back up. They got to know that this is what people think, because they measure and analyze social media all the time. They're watching all the time. Not only does Facebook provide the tools especially in the background. They have tools that aren't even public access. You know what I'm saying? Like they can, and there's engineers that can design tools for analytics for social media to really pull out a lot of information. And they have to know exactly what people are thinking because everybody wears it on their sleeve. Everybody fucking delivers it. They deliver the fucking transcript of their thoughts through social media. So they fucking know that people are not buying this COVID shit, and that it's spreading, and people are getting more comfortable with saying that. So what that probably means is that, you know, if they didn't do anything about it and they just let it go, that entire investment was wasted, right? Like, all they do is look silly, and it gets wasted, right? Now, contrast that with what would happen now if they dropped fucking bubonic or pneumonic plague. You know what I mean? Or an analog of that that's been slightly altered to be even more deadly, right? What would happen then? Well, it would look like, you know, number one, they wouldn't have to go back and look retarded on COVID. They could be like, look, see, we told you so. Now you're all fucking dying. And dying of dehydration, shitting your pants, and fucking bleeding in your lungs, getting pulmonary edema. They would be able to just say like, haha, I told you so. Silly resistors. You see what I'm saying? And then once the public is like, oh fuck, I didn't know it was going to be this bad, then they can be like, yeah, you didn't know. And that's why we have here's some more compliant measures, you know? Fucking put this camera in your butthole. Go run this thermometer ball on your boss's head, and your boss runs one on your head. You know? So think about it, right? It's like now it feels like we're a little bit early for the second virus, or the second bioagent. It seems a little bit early. It doesn't really seem like at a good pace. On the other hand, spring is coming up, so you have until summer, at the peak of summer, when you're gonna have, like, you know, really effective fucking distribution. Spring is the best time because everybody's outside. It's not hot enough to kill a lot of transmission, like in between people. The transmission rate is higher because it's not hot enough, and people are outside because it's not cold. You know, so like spring is the best time to release a virus. And people tend to like to go out, fresh air, you know, fresh perspective, you know, post New Year's resolution. They you know, everything's just comfortable and easy, so they like to associate and spend time with people they love, and also spend time with, you know, retards, because that's what most of us are. Now, that makes an opportune petri dish to drop some shit in the ass, right? So it seems logical that you would have, this is a prime time. We have two different vectors. We have both the failure of COVID-19, especially in the rural population, coinciding with the opportunity to drop the next one in its most advantageous time frame. Because there's two vectors there in consideration that would require, you know, because if you skip that, now you have to wait until next year. So it seems most advantageous to release one this spring. I don't know if it's going to be bubonic. I think bubonic is probably a little hardcore at this point. I think you need an intermediary between COVID and bubonic. But, you know, there's definitely, bubonic's got to be in play because of the cases in the past 15 years of random people getting bubonic in Colorado, which they typically attribute to like muskrats or whatever, fucking prairie dogs. Now there are, in Colorado, that is the super center of biological agent development for the United States government. So all your chemical weapon experimentation, chemical weapon storage depot, as well as biological weapons, most of the heart of that is in Colorado. Okay, now you've had several instances of people, especially getting into contact with like dogs, getting transmission of bubonic plague in Colorado. It's kind of a normal thing. You've had a couple of deaths of it. And, you know, like this sort of thing is going to be, especially if there's somebody watching these streams and they're unfamiliar with this type of analysis and just acceptance that the world is this way, I mean, you're crazy. There's literally the United States government the United States government got taken to court over Operation Seafoam, which was an operation in San Francisco Bay in the 1950s. It's called, it's not Seafoam, it's Sea Spray. Operation Sea Spray. 1950s would have been, I think, DOD and Department of Navy, and then some fucking, spooks all together on a ship in San Francisco Bay. They tried to engineer a inert bioagent that they could just use for tagging purposes to trace the dissemination of it through a population. This is in the 50s, like, woohoo, we won World War I, World War II, we're the good guys, let's boost that economy. And then what do you do? You gave them everything that they wanted. What do they do? They release a little start testing biological agents on you. A lot of thanks, So they release this shit. Actually ends up it puts a bunch of people in the hospital. It kills one guy, and the way that we know this is because the guy's family fucking figured it out somehow, and then they sued I think they sued the Department of Defense maybe or something like that. So that's where the historical notoriety of this sea spray operation is from. But it's not limited to sea spray. You had an operation in fucking Manhattan where they released and this is a separate incident prior to the 60s, so late 50s, maybe early 60s. They released and you can find all this stuff in the subcommittee for investigation of biological programs for United States government or whatever, and that was the Operation Sea Spray is like a package out of that, and they have in there a ton of operations of where the United States government released fucking agents that various agents. Some of them are supposed to be inert, like designer agents, where they're not supposed to have any effect, and they end up fucking it up and killing people or making people really sick, or they release that they consider to be not dangerous, like viruses and biological agents in general that don't have acute symptoms and shit like that, but are traceable, that they can trace through blood work and shit like that. They've released them in Manhattan in fucking subways in the fucking 50s. They released it multiple times in New York City. Most of it's on the coast. Surprise, surprise. Right? So anyone that has anybody that's watching this stuff and is like, man, this guy's so crazy, you're a fucking idiot. There's so much historical information out there that's published that you don't even know about. You don't know why? Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I come out here and tell you about this stuff. I can be drowned out. You see what I'm saying? You're gonna look at a fucking what's the little fucking coffee maker, the little instant coffee? You're gonna look at an advertisement for that. You're gonna be looking at fucking new iPhone or new Android. You're gonna be looking at fucking Tesla cars, whatever the fuck it is. You're gonna be looking at that. You're gonna be watching your idols and entertainment and music, shit like that. They're gonna be telling you one thing. And that's just that you need to make more money. That's going to be the only common thread through all of it, is that, you need to make more money, or you need to really value the small amount of money you have, and, you shouldn't judge people with different economic classes, and, it's going to be something, no matter what it is, nobody's going to be telling you that, you should find money detestable, that you should find money unethical, that you should find money as the agent of displacement of humanity and what tears people apart. And they're not gonna fucking tell you that. All this shit that I'm warning about is all out there. It's all available. You're just not, the public isn't supposed to look at it, right? They're not gonna stop you from looking at it. They're just gonna have you look somewhere else. And if you look somewhere else, if you look down a path that's dictated to you or suggested to you, and if you listen to people and they suggest paths, and you say, well, I'm going to look down this then. What happens when you look down a path? That means you can't look down another path. because you're already looking one way. You can only use your senses in a certain capacity. You can't be omnipotent. You're not going to be looking 2 places at once or 3 places at once. And this is the entire, purpose of inundation. It's overstimulating people, flooding people with, sensory stimulation, so that they cannot have the ability to choose what they look at, or the discernibility to decide what they should look at and what they shouldn't, like what's not important. And this is the entire game, right? Yeah, somebody says it's not good or bad, it's a resource, right? That's right. Yeah, it is a resource. The big thing about it though is that people don't understand that it's not physical, right? So money is never in any case physical. It is entirely in your perception and mind. So it's not like a resource in that regard. Okay? And it is like a fire. It depends on how you use it. That is true. That is true. But it's more like a fucking pyrophoric fire, where it's like no matter what you do, it's gonna fucking catch on fire. That's how it's a fire. You know what I'm saying? And it's only a matter of time. And people pretend like it's not, a matter of time. It is. And what it actually is technology is the problem. I'll tell you what the problem with money is. If it was possible to have a 1-for-1 representation that didn't grow exponentially, then it would be like a fire and a resource. That's never happened in human history. Ever. Never occurred. That's man's fault. That's not money's fault. Money is simply an abstraction. It's always baselessly expanded to swallow nations and people and destroy cultures. That is what money does. It is a high velocity agent of change, and people will do all kinds of things for money. All kinds of things for money. And the ball just keeps moving around. You may have $1 one, I don't know, seashell the next day. It just keeps moving around. And that's about all I have to say